Ready, yeah? Good morning to all. Today's topic is water and electrolyte balance. In the last session, we already discussed about water. In the previous also, we have completed this topic actually. Just it is a revision class. So before your internal examination, we are already discussed about water. So now we need to know about electrolytes, how those are balancing in our body. So this is the water content total, how much of water that is present, how it is distributed from the one place to other place, how much of volume it is present, how it is distribution through the osmosis, high concentration to low concentration or low concentration to high concentration, how much of volume that is we are taking or excreted, how the water regulation that is taking place. So these are all we are discussed in the last session. So now we need to discuss about electrolytes. So this is electrolytes are very important to diagnostic. Okay, if we are neglecting these electrolytes reporting, there is a chance to death of the patient. So electrolytes are very important. Okay, so the most important electrolytes are sodium, potassium, chloride, and bicarbonate. Okay, these are the four electrolytes. So here electrolytes are having ionic charge, electrical charge. So here sodium and chloride, these two are having, sodium and potassium, these two are having positive ionic charge. Sodium and potassium, positive electrical charge. Chloride and bicarbonate, these two are having negative charge. Chloride and bicarbonate are having negative charge. So here these electrolytes are minerals. These electrolytes are minerals. These are having a electrical charge. So here these minerals, electrolytes main function is that balancing intake of nutrients, transport of waste products from the inside to outside. These are all functions we will discuss. Each one, sodium, potassium, chloride, and bicarbonate, each one we will discuss. Okay. So for this balance of the electrolytes, we require at least 8 to 10 glasses of the water per day. How much? 8 to 10 glasses of the water per day for the balancing of the electrolytes. So because main function of the electrolytes, that is mainly depending on the water content. If there is any chance to reduce or elevation of the water content in our body, that the electrolyte concentration is also changes. If there is any change in the electrolyte concentration, there is a chance to produce so many health problems. Okay. So here intracellular membrane, extracellular. So in the extracellular fluid, most of the sodium chloride, those are present at the extracellular fluid. Very minute amount only that is present intracellular fluid. Okay. So in the intracellular fluid, potassium is mostly, that is a high amount that is present intracellularly. Very less amount that is present at extracellularly. Okay. So here these electrolyte main function is maintaining fluid balance. Electrolyte main function is maintenance of the fluid balance. So here second image you can see here, this is the extracellular space, this is intracellular space. So that the blue color dots, those are electrolytes are present. Okay. So in this image you can see inside the cell most of the electrolytes concentration that is present with compared to extracellular. Extracellularly electrolytes are very less count. So here intracellular concentration of the electrolytes, that is excess. So immediately what happened? Osmosis of the water from the lower concentration to higher concentration. So immediately water that diffuse from the extracellular into the intracellular membrane. Okay, like that. Here in the second image you can see here electrolytes concentration high at the extracellular fluid if compared to intracellular fluid. So when there is excess amount of higher concentration of the electrolytes at the extracellular fluid, water diffuse from intracellular to extracellular for fluid balance. So fluid balance, that is mainly depending on the electrolyte concentration. So another function of the electrolytes, these are mainly participated in the nerve conduction or muscle function. Okay, so in this is the image of the synopsis. What is synopsis? Nerve conduction that sends the symptoms from the one neuron to another neuron. Okay, so through this is the synaptic clefter. This is the neuron end. One neuron that is attached to the another neuron through these signals that sends from the one neuron to another neuron. So through this synopsis, what happened? Synaptic vesicles that carrying signals that transfers from one neuron to another neuron. Through this process, that synaptic vesicles that first released into the synaptic clefter. So this transfer of this synaptic vesicles from one neuron to another neuron, that is mainly depending on the action potential. That is mainly depending on the action potential. So here nerve axon. So here nerve axon, that signals that pass from the this neuron to another neuron. Okay. So here during the action potential, you already studied about action potential. So in that action potential, what happened? So normally nerves are in relaxed stage. So in that relaxed stage, nerves inside the cells of the neuron, that is always negatively charged. Inside the neuron, that is negatively charged. Outside the neuron, extracellular space of the neuron, that is positively charged. Okay. So when there is a action potential that is taking place, that means transfer of signals from one neuron to another neuron. So there, that the action potential that is starting. So action potential, how it is taking place? Depolarization, repolarization, resting membrane. Okay, 3 steps: depolarization, repolarization, and the third one is resting membrane. Okay, so in that depolarization, what happened? Whatever sodium, that is extracellular sodium, that is enters into the inside the cell. So inside the cell, actually what it is contain? Negative charge. So when it is sodium that enters into the cell, whenever sodium that enters into the cell, that ionic charge that is increased. So this is positive ionic charge that is increased. So when the concentration of the ionic charge that is increased, water taken from the extracellular to intracellular. Water is diffusing from the extracellular space to the intracellular space. Okay. Then after depolarization, repolarization that is taking place. Repolarization, what happened? Whatever potassium that is present inside the cell, that is transfers to the extracellular fluid. Then extracellular potassium concentration that is increased. So ionic concentration that is increased at the extracellular fluid. So when extracellular concentration of the ionic charge is increased, that takes water from the intracellular fluid. So intracellular fluid that comes to the extracellular fluid for the water balance. This is called repolarization. Okay. Third one is resting membrane. So here there is no shifting of sodium into potassium. So sodium potassium exchange, that is mainly depending on the enzyme. What is that enzyme? Sodium potassium ATPase. So here these two electrolytes are having a main function in the nerve conduction. Okay. So individual. First of all, we need to discuss about sodium. So in that mineral topic, we already discussed about the sodium, potassium, chloride, and bicarbonate individual minerals. Okay, but here brief introduction I will give you. So sodium role in the body. So sodium, we already know that the sodium, excess of more amount of sodium that is present extracellularly. So very less amount that is present intracellularly. Okay, so already we just now we discussed about normal nerve and muscle function, nerve conduction and muscle contraction. In these two, sodium have a major role. So normally, how much of concentration that is present in the blood? 136 to 145 millimoles per liter. How much? 136 to 145 millimoles per liter. If it is excess above the 145 millimoles per liter, that condition is called hypernatremia. That condition is called hypernatremia. If it is lesser than 136 millimoles per liter, that is called hyponatremia. So normally, sodium in our blood, sodium concentration that is regulated by the healthy kidney. Healthy kidney. So whenever our blood is containing excess amount of sodium, that is excreted through the kidney. So then there is no reabsorption because already we have sufficient amount of this sodium. If we are having a very less amount of this sodium, whatever sodium that is excreted in the kidney, immediately reabsorption of the sodium that is taking place in the kidney and the reabsorbed sodium that is again comes into the blood. Okay, kidneys plays a major role to maintain sodium concentration in the blood. So here, normally, if we are maintaining normal 135 to 145 millimoles per liter, then there is no diffusion of water from the intracellular to extracellular, extracellular to intracellular. There is no water diffusion. If there is any abnormality of this normal range in the extracellular fluid, there is a chance to produce diffusion of the water. So for this, first of all, we need to know about hyponatremia. Hyponatremia. That means less concentration of this sodium present in the extracellular fluid. Okay, so in that extracellular fluid, we are estimating this sodium, potassium, chloride, we are estimating in the plasma. So we are collecting the venous blood and then we are separating the plasma. From the plasma, we are estimating. So plasma is the extracellular fluid. Okay, plasma is the extracellular fluid. So here, if sodium concentration is very lesser, okay, less than 135 millimoles per liter. So here, this is the extracellular fluid. This is the cell. Cell is containing intracellular fluid. So when the extracellular fluid concentration of the sodium that is reduced, immediately whatever water present in the extracellular fluid that is diffused into the intracellular fluid. So whenever this water diffused into the intracellular fluid, that the swelling of the cell that is taking place, cell swelling. So when it is greatly reduced, okay, there is a chance to diffuse more amount of water diffused into the intracellular. So then what happened? Cell blast. Okay. Next one is hypernatremia. So that means high amount of sodium concentration present in the blood, extracellular fluid. So when sodium concentration is greatly increased, then what happened? Excess amount of water that is taken from the intracellular fluid. So in whatever fluid that is present in the intracellular, that water is diffused into the extracellular. So then what happened? Cell sinks. That cell size is greatly reduced. So in these two conditions are very bad because there is a chance to cell death. There is a chance to cell death. So hypernatremia when it is happened, hyponatremia when it is happened. So hypernatremia, that means high concentration of the sodium when it is happened. So this is mainly due to dehydration. When we feel dehydration, water content when it is reduced greatly, there is a chance to increase a sodium concentration. So normal dehydration conditions, these are all. What are those? Drinking too little water, vomitings. Through the vomitings we lose sodium. Diarrhea. Through the feces we lose this sodium. And using drugs, diuretics, and sweating also. These are all conditions we lose water. Okay, so that may produces dehydration. So dehydration is the main reason that produces hypernatremia. Okay, next one is non without dehydration. Without the dehydration, what happens when it is happening without the dehydration? So kidney reabsorption. So kidney reabsorption when it is increased, then only that the sodium, excess amount of sodium that is released into the blood. So adrenal disorders, especially Cushing syndrome. Cushing syndrome, so we know that enlargement of the adrenal gland that is taking place. In that Cushing syndrome, what happened? Enlargement of the adrenal gland. So when it is enlarged adrenal gland in the Cushing syndrome, excess amount of the aldosterone that is released. Excess amount of aldosterone that is released into the blood. Then this aldosterone that is reached to the kidney. In the kidney, that what is the main function of the aldosterone? In the kidney, what is the main function of the aldosterone? Reabsorption of the, secretion of the, reabsorption of the sodium. Somebody disturbing this class, we know that who is that, everything is recording. Please maintain, keep silence. Okay, somebody giving sounds backside. These are all recording. I will verify after this class. Please be silent. So, adrenal disorders, Cushing syndrome. Cushing syndrome, what happened? That increases the adrenal gland size. That adrenal due to that adrenal gland size is increased, that produces more amount of aldosterone. That aldosterone that acts on kidney, especially proximal convoluted tubule. Most of the sodium reabsorption that is mainly depending on this aldosterone. When the aldosterone concentration is increased, that more sodium reabsorption that is taking place. Okay, some other conditions also that may produce us hypernatremia. What are those? Diabetes mellitus and kidney disorders. What are the symptoms? The first symptom is thirst. The first symptom is thirst. So most serious symptoms include mild. Mild is brain dysfunction. Okay. Severe is confusion, muscle twitching, coma, and maybe death. These are the symptoms. Next one is hyponatremia. Hyponatremia means when the sodium concentration in the blood that is reduced. So sodium concentration when it is reduced, most of the sodium we are providing through the diet. So when we are taking low amount of sodium contained diet, there is a chance to produce hyponatremia. So this is the common cause, but some other causes you can see, some diuretic use, drugs use, syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone secretion. So when there is no secretion of antidiuretic hormone, there is no reabsorption of the sodium. There is no reabsorption of the sodium. This is also one of the reasons to reduce sodium concentration in the blood. Next one is diarrhea, heart failure, liver diseases, renal diseases. So these are all disorders that produces hyponatremia. So symptoms, what are the symptoms? So mostly the cells of the brain to swell. So this is the normal brain, this is the abnormal brain. The cells of the brain that is swelled because what happened, low amount of the sodium that is present at the extracellular fluid of the brain. When the low amount of sodium is present extracellular fluid of the brain, that water present at the extracellular fluid that enters into the brain cells. Then after what happened? Brain swelling that is taking place. Okay. So normal symptoms are mild is headache, moderate is confusion, severe means insensibility. There is no sensation. Neuromuscular hyperexcitability, hyperreflexia, seizures, coma, and severe condition may be, they may be die. Death can result. So these are all symptoms. Next one is after the sodium, potassium role in the body. So potassium. So we know that potassium, this is positive ionic charge it is containing, and most of the potassium that is present inside the cell. Inside the cell. So inside the cell, what it is function? Inside the cell, it moves nutrient into the cells and waste products out of the cells. Okay. So already we discussed about this nerve function and muscle function, muscle contraction and nerve conduction. Okay. These two you know. So normal range of the potassium concentration in the blood 3.5 to 5.3 because it is a intracellular component. Okay, but we are estimating in the extracellular. So in the extracellular, potassium concentration with compared to sodium very low. Okay, so here 3.5 to 5.3 millimoles per liter. So if it is high amount above the 5.3, that is called hyperkalemia. If it is low, hypokalemia. Okay, kalemia, potassium, K. So in that hyperkalemia means high amount of potassium that is present in the blood. So high amount, so normally excess more amount of potassium present inside the cell. Okay. So whenever that potassium that is leaks from the cells, that may produces hyperkalemia. So this is the normal cell, this is the breakage of this cell. Okay. That leaks intracellular fluid. This is completely breakage of the cell. Completely potassium that is released into the extracellular fluid. So hyperkalemia develops when there is an excessive production in the blood. So excessive production, whether we have to take orally we have to take potassium contained sources or tissue breakdown. Okay. Next one is ineffective elimination of potassium. So potassium elimination through the kidney. Okay. So ineffective elimination can be hormonal. So already we discussed aldosterone. So aldosterone, it is a hormone that acts on distal convoluted tubule. In that distal convoluted tubule, normally what happened? Potassium secretion that is taking place. So when there is a deficiency of the aldosterone that is taking place, there is no proper secretion of the potassium from the capillaries to the distal convoluted tubule. Then what happened? Blood potassium concentration that is increased. That is called hyperkalemia. So normal symptoms, normally muscle weakness. Okay, normally muscle weakness. Some hyperkalemia can interfere with the electrical signals in the heart to muscle. So normally heart that beat individually, after dying also sometimes that beats individually because of this pacemaker activity. So this pacemaker activity that is mainly depending on the action potential. That is mainly depending on the action potential. So whenever the excess amount of potassium that is present in the blood that interfere with the proper electrical signals in the SA node and the AV node, then there is improper signals. Then improper signals then it's not sending the signals to the atrium and ventricles, improper signals. So due to these improper signals, that produces cardiac arrhythmias. Cardiac arrhythmias means abnormal heart rhythms. Cardiac arrhythmias means abnormal heart rhythms. So abnormal heart rhythms that may be produced due to high amount of potassium when it is present in the blood, hyperkalemia. So excess of potassium that interfere with these action potential in the heart nerve conduction. Okay, so when there is no proper signaling, there is no cardiac rhythms. So here you can see ECG signals that is greatly reduced. Okay, so if it is even very severe, there is a chance to heart beating stopping. So immediately the stops the heart beating. There is a chance to die immediately. So hypokalemia, that is hyperkalemia. Now we are discussing about hypokalemia. Hypokalemia means low amount of potassium present in the blood. So when low amount of potassium present in the blood, due to when we are not providing a sufficient potassium, when we are not taking sufficient potassium, or due to all these reasons, vomiting, diarrhea, taking drugs, and kidney and adrenal gland problems. In these conditions, hyperkalemia may produce. Symptoms: slight decrease, there is no symptoms. Mild, there is no symptoms. Moderate, that maybe produces muscle weakness, muscle cramping, muscle twitches, even paralysis. Okay, abnormal heart rhythms also may develop. In severe conditions, may develop kidney problems, urinate frequently. These are all symptoms due to hypokalemia. Next one is chloride. What is the role of chloride? So if you understand potassium, chloride is very easy to understand, because along with the sodium, chloride is also present at the extracellular fluid. So normally when the sodium concentration is increased, chloride concentration is also increased. So when the sodium concentration is reduced, chloride concentration is also reduced, except in acid-base disorders. Okay, except in acid-base disorders. In that acid-base disorders, whether sodium increased or decreased, there is an abnormality. We will identifying that chloride abnormality. Okay, in that, except in the acid-base disorders, sodium along with the chloride, that may be chances to either increase or decrease. Okay, so here we need to remember that chloride and also bicarbonate both are acts as a buffer. So here chloride acts as a buffer. So what is the function of buffer? It regulates the acid-base balance. What is the function of buffer? It regulates the acid-base balance. Okay, so normal concentration of the chloride is 97 to 110 millimoles per liter. How much is normal range? 97 to 110 millimoles per liter. So here, how chloride that regulate the acid-base balance. So here, during the inspiration and expiration, that carbon dioxide is produced. So carbon dioxide that is released from the metabolic reactions in the tissues, that carbon dioxide that released into the capillaries, then that carbon dioxide when that enters into the RBC, in the presence of the enzyme carbonic anhydrase, that is converted to the bicarbonate. So here bicarbonate that binds with the hydrogen ion for acid-base balance. So whenever bicarbonate is released into the plasma, immediately whatever chloride that is present in the plasma, immediately that shifts into the RBC, that replaces the bicarbonate place. Okay, then bicarbonate that is released into the plasma. Finally, from the tissues that is reached to the lungs through the capillaries. So when it is reached to the lungs, this bicarbonate again that enters into the RBC, then that is converted to the carbon dioxide. So when it is enters into the bicarbonate into the RBC, immediately chloride that present inside the cell that is released into the plasma. So this is called chloride bicarbonate shift. Okay, chloride bicarbonate shift. So then bicarbonate that converted to the carbon dioxide, then that carbon dioxide that is enters into the alveolar cells. So this is the respiration. Okay, so here bicarbonate. What is bicarbonate? Bicarbonate is the carrier of carbon dioxide. Bicarbonate is the carrier of carbon dioxide. So bicarbonate that carries carbon dioxide from the tissues to the lungs. So this is about chloride bicarbonate shift. Next one is hyperchloremia. Hyperchloremia. So chloride concentration in the blood when it is increased. So these are all normal, moderate high, may not produce any symptoms. So even if it is high, moderate high, we are not getting any symptoms. But if it is very high, long-term hyperchloremia, untreated, moderate high hyperchloremia, that may produces some symptoms. What are those? Fluid retention, high blood pressure, irregular heart rate, muscle weakness, confusion, tingling, seizures, convulsions. These are all symptoms we will see hyperchloremia. Next one is, you can say hyperchloremia. These are all common symptoms for sodium also. Hyposodium also. So hypochloremia may be caused by kidney failure. When there is a kidney failure, excess of chloride that is released excreted through the kidney. Okay. Hyperchloremia can also be caused by following conditions: congestive heart failure, prolonged diarrhea or vomiting, chronic lung diseases such as emphysema. So metabolic alcoholism, some drugs can also produce hypochloremia. These are all common. So next one is bicarbonate role in the body. Bicarbonate role in the body. So now you know that how bicarbonate is produced. So bicarbonate, how it is produced? Through the carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide, when it is enters into the RBC, it is converted to the bicarbonate. Bicarbonate then transfers from the capillaries to the lung alveoli that carries carbon dioxide. Okay. So here bicarbonate is also acts as a buffer. Bicarbonate is also acts as a buffer. So here also bicarbonate main function is that regulates the acid-base balance. Okay. Here it is the normal range, 22 to 29 millimoles per liter. What is the normal range? 22 to 29 millimoles per liter. So why I am skipping these some slides, because already we discussed it in the mineral class, sodium, potassium chloride and bicarbonate. That's why I am skipping. Okay. Next one is electrolyte balance. How electrolytes are balancing in the body. So we know that sodium present in the extracellular fluid, most of the potassium present in the intracellular fluid. So during the reactions, some sodium that enters into the cell, some potassium that comes from the out of the cell. So that cycle is called sodium potassium pump. Sodium potassium pump. For that cycle, that is required enzyme, sodium potassium ATPase. That is the enzyme that is required for sodium potassium exchange. That is called action potential. Okay, that is called action potential. So mechanism of regulation of electrolytes and water balance. So that is mainly mechanism of renal regulation, mechanism of neural regulation. This is already, you know that how it is taking place. So mechanism of renal regulation, how it is taking place. So here two hormones that is required for water and electrolyte balance. For water, that is required anti-diuretic hormone for water reabsorption that is mainly depending on the antidiuretic hormone. So the antidiuretic hormone that is released from the posterior pituitary gland. So antidiuretic hormone that is released from the posterior pituitary gland. So when it is released, when we feel thirst, when we feel thirst, when the water content in our body greatly reduced, when the water content in our body greatly reduced, immediately we require water. So immediately water reabsorption that has to taking place. So immediately posterior pituitary gland that releases antidiuretic hormone. So that the antidiuretic hormone then from the blood that reaches to the kidney. So here in the kidney, immediately that water reabsorption that is taking place. So water reabsorbed into the in the kidney, it is to the blood. So this is about antidiuretic hormone. Next one is aldosterone. So aldosterone synthesis that is taking place in the adrenal gland. Adrenal gland. So when the adrenal gland is activated, immediately that releases aldosterone. So aldosterone synthesis that is mainly depending on the sodium and potassium concentrations in the blood. So when the aldosterone is released from the adrenal gland, that is reached to the blood. From the blood, it is transported to the kidney. So here in the kidney, aldosterone main function that is taking place in the proximal convoluted tubule and distal convoluted tubule. So in the proximal convoluted tubule, what happened? Excess amount of the sodium, that reabsorption of the sodium that is taking place. So here aldosterone action in the proximal convoluted tubule. What is that? Reabsorption of the sodium that is depending on the aldosterone. So if the aldosterone concentration is increased, more sodium reabsorption that is taking place in the proximal convoluted tubule. If the aldosterone concentration is reduced, there is no reabsorption of the sodium in the proximal convoluted tubule. So that lost. Another function of the aldosterone in the distal convoluted tubule. So in the distal convoluted tubule, what happened? In the presence of the aldosterone, more amount of secretion of potassium that is taking place. More amount of secretion of potassium that is taking place in the distal convoluted tubule. If there is any absence of this aldosterone, there is no secretion of potassium into the distal convoluted tubule. So more amount of potassium that is accumulated in the blood. So these are the hormones required for the water regulation and these electrolyte regulations in the kidney. Next one is neural regulation. Neural regulation. So water intake is regulated by thirst center. Water intake is regulated by the thirst center. When thirst center that is located at the hypothalamus. Okay, when we feel thirst, hypothalamus that releases the hormones. Okay, in water deprivation, when we are not having sufficient water in our body, first appears in the plasma. First appears in the plasma. Plasma become more concentrated. Okay, plasma become more concentrated. More concentrated means that is having less amount of water, more amount of electrolytes. Okay, and it is osmotic pressure increases. Osmotic pressure increases. So when the water concentration is reduced, that electrolyte concentration is increased. So when the electrolyte concentration is increased, immediately that takes water from the intracellular fluids. Immediately that takes water from the intracellular fluid. So that means intracellular dehydration that is taking place. Intracellular dehydration that is taking place. So water electrolyte imbalance. Water and electrolyte imbalance seen in dehydration and water intoxication. Dehydration means less amount of water present. Water intoxication means higher amount of water that is present in the blood. Both are danger. Okay. So first of all, dehydration. Dehydration is two types: primary dehydration, secondary dehydration. Primary dehydration, secondary dehydration. Primary dehydration means loss of water from the body. Primary dehydration means loss of water from the body. Secondary dehydration means loss of electrolytes from the body. Secondary dehydration means loss of electrolytes from the body. So if there is any, these are the clinical features. What are the primary dehydration features? Secondary dehydration features. You can read it. Cellular dehydration, extreme thirst, dry tongue, muscular weakness, sorry, confusion. These are all symptoms. Secondary dehydration, cellular dehydration, muscular cramps, nausea, low BP, increased pulse rate. So these are all different two types of the dehydration. Next one is water intoxication. Some people, they are drinking continuously, okay, water. So if you are drinking more amount of water, that is also harm to our body, okay. So what are the causes? Renal failure, hypersecretion of antidiuretic hormone, intravascular administration of the large volume of dextrose solution, power production of aldosterone. In all these conditions, that produces more amount of water. Okay. So these are the clinical symptoms: headache, nausea, muscular weakness, cramps, mental confusion, convulsions. These are all different symptoms. So this is about the topic water and electrolyte balance. So electrolytes are very important for acid-base disorders, and also human body balance, and also water balance in the body. So read it well. I think maybe when it is started, your classes or examinations, when you appear in the college, still it is not decided. We will see in the next class. Thank you.